everyone. Today I'm taking a look at what remains of Edith Finch. Now, this is a game that I really had no interest in playing because it's a walking simulator and they were very popular around this time. And there were a few in this category like Dear Esther, The Stanley Parable, um, Gone Home. Some of them were actually good, like The Stanley Parable, and some of them were kind of just pretentious art pieces that it's a video game, but they just were using it as a platform to get their message out there and their message across and just kind of, do whatever. And, I was just never really a fan of that, of just exploiting the medium just to tell your own personal story and whatnot. But I kept seeing Edith Finch in the list of, top rated games or, in the top, 50 area or section, or a lot of people had played it. So I was kind of genuinely curious and thought, okay, it's on sale, I'll buy this on a whim, and went into it. And it's actually like a pretty fantastic little game. If anything, it feels like a movie. And what I think is really good, besides the very first 10 minutes, is that the pacing is actually really good. The other thing that I really, really, really like about this game is that it's not actually just a walking simulator. Yes, it's point and click for the most part, and it's the words on the screen that disappear. But you get to play as different people, and when you play as those different characters, you are guaranteed to get a different gameplay value, or a different style of gameplay. That's not just walking; you actually interact with the environment. One episode, you actually get a cane, and you can swipe things around on the desk, and you can attack things. And so they're regulated to those one section. And so each section is very, very specific. And also each section has a certain aesthetic to it, a certain style. And the reason for this is that it's actually a pretty creative premise that you play as Edith Finch, this young woman who is essentially looking into her family's past. And she doesn't really know much about them because her mom passed away. And so her mom left her the key to the old house before they left. And inside that house, there is a bunch of journals and diaries. And every time she reads a journal about one of her family members, she gets to see into their life and she gets to play as them. And so the whole premise is that their family has a history of supernatural talents, but also very strange, tragic deaths as well. So they're kind of like a cursed family with a bunch of supernatural stuff going on. And it just kind of seamlessly transitions from a normal life into this weird little short story where suddenly the rules of reality break. And I honestly, I really love it. And so it's not only a shift in perspective, it's a shift in the story, it's a shift in the tone, it's a shift in the aesthetic value sometimes, and it's a shift in the gameplay too. So what this really reminded me of is like a Lemony Snicket kind of, story where you have, a series of unfortunate events. You have this weird line of very peculiar characters, their traits, their actions, their situations. And yeah, it just kind of goes on this wild little ride. So it's not really pretentious. It actually tells like a basic story. Each character has their own thing, and like I said, it's ranged from there's a Halloween horror story, a girl transforms into a bunch of different animals, you have one guy who's living under a bomb shelter for 30 years because he thought there was a nuclear war going on, and he ends up leaving after 30 years and ends up getting run over by a train as soon as he leaves. So yeah, it's a lot of very funny, weird, random short stories strung together and told throughout the actual medium of the house. So as you explore the house and the rooms, the whole symbol on the main game is that those are the weird house. That's the weird house that was constructed, and all the weird rooms and specific little idiosyncrasies of the person, the house. Everything feels very honestly interesting and well thought out. And again, like, I think the best thing about it is this whole game, I looked at my gameplay, it's only like an hour and a half. So it's a fun storytelling mechanism that does not waste your time. And that's the best thing I can say about it, is that the pacing is so good. You never feel like it's wasting your time. You always feel like there's always something new and wild and crazy around the corner, and it keeps you playing until the very end of it, which again is not very long. So for a very short experience, I definitely found it to be very memorable and really, really fun and engaging. And yeah, it's a little bit random, but it tells very emotional stories sometimes. There's one story about just the baby that just, I mean, it was kind of cheap and predictable, but it still got to me how they went about it, you know? And yeah, so it basically ends with, you know, all of the characters of timely deaths, and you get their own little stories and scenarios. And yeah, it's just a fun little, almost want to call it a novel, little game. But yeah, it was something I would actually recommend because it's super short, super cheerful, sweet, fun, happy, and yeah, very, very, I don't know, straightforward, very you know, not intense at all. So yeah, I would actually get a recommendation because again, with these kinds of games, you never really want to stay over so much time. So it being just over an hour, I think is like the perfect length for just telling a story. And yeah, there were some, oh my god, there were some scenarios that I felt personally attacked for. Like there's this one where there's this guy and he's working at like a fish chopping shop where he works at the fish decapitation machine, and he has this thing where he's putting his hand, you know, and the fish, and he's chopping off the fish's heads one by one and pushes them into the conveyor belt. And it's this monotonous, boring task that he essentially ends up imagining that he's the king of some medieval kingdom, and he starts world building while he's doing his monotonous job. And I've been there. I have been in that situation where I've been doing some monotonous minimum wage job, and my mind is wandering to this fantastical place. And I've never seen that depicted so well in film or in a video game. This idea of like he's doing this manual labor process, but his fantasy keeps building and building and building until the whole fantasy takes up the entire area of his workspace. And it's like, yeah, that's a real experience that I've never seen depicted before. So yeah, this game, it does a lot of things very differently, and even in terms of the story for which it is doing, you know, I think it does enough things new and differently that makes it worth actually checking out, rather than if it was in a book form or video form. I think it stands out even if it wasn't those formats as well. But anyway, that's what remains of Edith Finch, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Short, sweet, and cheerful. Bye.